Picture a vibrant coastal city in South Korea, Busan, the country's second largest metropolis, alive with energy, massive ports humming with activity, crowded markets overflowing with color and sound, millions of people rushing their everyday lives. It's a place where modern technology connects strangers in seconds through apps for tutoring, rideshare, deliveries, you name it. But in the spring of 2023, beneath this ordinary surface, something utterly unimaginable was brewing. A 23-year-old woman named Jung Yoo-jung spent months carefully planning and then carrying out a brutal random. She had no prior connection to her victim, no financial motive, no history of arguments or betrayal. When police finally asked her why, her chilling response was, "I committed the crime out of curiosity about killing a person." Stop and really think about that for a moment. In our world today, where true crime podcasts top the charts, documentaries about serial killers dominate streaming platforms, and millions of us, perhaps even you watching right now, consume stories of week after week. This case hits on a deeply uncomfortable level. It forces us to confront a disturbing questions. Where exactly is the line between harmless fascination with the dark side of humanity and something far more dangerous? Welcome to the full, in-depth story of Jung Yoo-jung, one of the most shocking and psychologically complex crimes in modern South Korean history. We were going to walk around through every documented detail, her troubled background, the gradual build-up, her obsession, the meticulous months of preparation, the horrific execution of the crime, the near flawless attempt at cover-up, the single moment of human vigilance that unraveled everything, the courtroom battles, expert analysis, and the lasting impact on society. No speculation, no filler, just the facts, laid out step by step. If you are ready for a story that will linger long after it ends, let's begin. To understand how this tragedy unfolded, we have to start with the woman at its center, Jung Yoo-jung. Born in 1999, at the time of the crime in May 2023, she was just 23 years old. Today, as of January 3rd, 2026, she is 26 or 27 and remains incarcerated, serving a life sentence with no reported charge or new development since the final court ruling in 2024. Jung's early life was marked by profound abandonment and instability. Her mother left the family when Jung was only 1 year old. Her father followed suit when she was 6. From then on, she was raised primarily by her grandfather in a modest, quiet home in Busan. Growing up without parental figures left deep emotional scars that experts would later point to as contributing factor in her psychological profile. Academically and socially, things didn't improve. Jung dropped out of high school, repeatedly failed university entrance exams, and struggled to find or keep employment. By her early 20s, she had become almost completely withdrawn from society, described by those who knew of her as living a reclusive existence, similar to the Japanese phenomenon known as hikikomori, where individuals isolate themselves for years. Jung rarely left home and had minimum interaction with the outside world. With vast amounts of unstructured time on her hands, Jung turned to an increasingly intense obsession, true crime. We are not talking casual viewing here. This was immersion on a profound level. She spent hours every day watching television crime shows and documentaries, reading novels about murder, and browsing online forums dedicated to real-life cases and the concept of so-called perfect crime committed without leaving traces or getting caught. Over the course of several months, what began as entertainment slowly morphed into something far darker. Police investigations later revealed that Jung was no longer passively consuming content. She was actively researching practical details, effective methods of killing, techniques for concealing evidence, ways to dispose the body without detection. She even borrowed books from public libraries on related topics and conducted countless internet searches like how to commit murder without a corpse or similar phrases. It wasn't a sudden impulse, it was a gradual escalation from fantasy to deliberate preparation. Let's examine the why, the motive that stunned everybody involved in the case. Confronted by police, Jung repeatedly insisted her actions stemmed from simple, morbid curiosity. She claimed her heavy exposure to true crime media had sparked an urge to experience what murder actually felt like in real life, and after months of wondering, she decided to act on it. Experts who analyzed the case almost universally treated this as an oversimplified or incomplete explanation. Behavioral scientist Colton Scrivener from Aarhus University's Recreational Fear Lab, a research group studying why humans are drawn to frightening things, explains that morbid curiosity is surprisingly common and often psychologically adaptive. Millions of people worldwide indulge in true crime content because it allows us to safely explore fears, understand deception, and prepare for potential real-world threats. It's a form of recreational fear that rarely, if ever, leads to violence. So, what set Jung apart? Psychological evaluations conducted after her arrest revealed she scored extremely high on the Hare psychopathy checklist, reportedly about 25 out of 40 points, with scores over 30 generally indicating clinically psychopathy. Key traits associated with the high scores include a profound lack of empathy, superficial or absent remorse, manipulativeness, and emotional detachment from others' suffering. Profilers were particularly struck by Jung's airy calmness throughout the entire process. She displayed almost no panic during the crime itself, no visible distress when disposing of evidence, had remarkable composure during police questioning, and even court-mandated crime scene reenactments. One profiler noted that most people, even seasoned criminals, experience overwhelming terror or regret after taking a life, but Jung appeared detached, as if observing events from afar. David Schmid, a professor at the University of Buffalo and a leading expert on the cultural phenomenon of true crime, described Jung's curiosity claim as grossly inadequate. He argued it conveniently ignored deeper underlying resentment, the lingering pain and anger from parental abandonment, chronic frustration from repeated failures in education and employment, and a possible envy toward young women who appeared to have the independent, successful lives Jung felt denied. A telling detail supporting this. After the Jung deliberately kept several of the victim's personal items, her ID card, wallet, and mobile phone. Some experts interpreted this as evidence of an identity theft fantasy, as if Jung imagined stepping into a better life by assuming aspects of her victim's identity. With this psychological backdrop in mind, let's move to the how. The meticulous planning and execution that revealed just how calculated this crime truly was. Jung knew she needed a complete stranger as her target to eliminate any possible links back to herself. She downloaded a popular South Korean tutoring app, one of many platforms connecting freelance teachers with students, and created a fake profile, posing as a concerned mother searching for English lessons for her high school-aged daughter. She began contacting potential victims. Over several weeks, she reached out to more than 50 tutors, the vast majority young women who advertised teaching private lessons from their own homes. She specifically filtered for those living alone, making entry easier and reducing the chance of interruption. She finally selected a 26-year-old woman, a university student working as a freelance English tutor to supplement her income. Authorities have withheld the victim's name to protect her family's privacy, but she lived alone in an apartment in Busan's Gyeomjong district a typical residential area where home-based tutoring was common. To complete her deception, Jung went online and purchased her authentic-looking high school uniform. She also bought, well in advance, a large hard-shell suitcase, a sharp knife, bleach, and other cleaning agents, plastic sheets, and additional tools needed for what she planned next. The date set for the crime was May 26, 2023. That afternoon, Jung arrived at the victim's apartment building dressed fully in the school uniform, carrying a backpack to reinforce the student persona. The victim, believing she was meeting a new teenage people and her mother, buzzed Jung in without suspicion. Once inside and the door closed, the pretense ended abruptly in a prolonged and frenzied attack that lasted more than an hour. Jung stabbed the victim over 110 times. Reports indicate the victim fought back courageously and desperately, but she was ultimately overpowered. What followed was hours of methodological activity inside the apartment. Jung dragged the body to the bathroom, where she used the tools she had brought to dismember it, a process that took considerable time and effort. She then thoroughly cleaned blood evidence from the floor and the surface using bleach, wrapped and packed the remains into a large suitcase, and changed into some of the victim's own clothing to alter her appearance slightly when leaving. Before departing, she pocketed the victim's mobile phone, ID card, and wallet, items that would later fuel theories about identity fantasies. Late that night, or in the very early hours of May 27, Jung left the apartment and hailed a taxi. Her destination, a secluded, wooded riverside area along the Nakdong River in neighboring Yangsan city, approx 20 kilometers north of central Busan. She had chosen a spot near Wangsan Culture and Sports Park and Hopo Station, remote enough with dense bushes and tree cover to conceal evidence, yet accessible by road, fitting her research idea of a perfect disposal site. She instructed the driver to take her there, lugging the now heavy, blood-stained suitcase. This is the pivotal moment where an ordinary act of human awareness changes everything. The taxi driver immediately noticed several red flags. The suitcase was leaking blood onto his vehicle floor. Jung's behavior was unusually calm yet evasive, and the late-night drop-off in a remote wooded area felt deeply suspicious. Rather than brushing it off, the driver played it safe. He waited until Jung dragged the suitcase deep into the bushes and abandoned it. Then, as soon as she returned lighter and reboarded briefly or left, he contacted police emergency services right away. Officers arrived quickly, located the abandoned suitcase in the undergrowth, and discovered the horrific contents. Within hours, they traced the taxi ride through records and CCTV footage, leading directly to Jung. Jung was arrested just days later. Exact report placed it between late May and early June 2023, when confronted with mounting evidence. She denied everything. She then shifted stories multiple times, first claiming someone else committed the murder and then she only helped move the body, later saying it was an accidental argument gone wrong. Finally, under the weight of forensic proof, she confessed, reiterating her curiosity motive tied to true crime consumption. The various aspects amplified the national shock. The murder occurred in a typical urban residential apartment in Jung district, highlighting how everyday digital platforms could unknowingly facilitate danger for those living and working alone. The disposal site along the Nakdong River illustrated the chilling contrast, urban convenience meeting independent rural seclusion, yet ultimately foiled by proximity to civilization and one alert citizen. The timeline of justice moved remarkably. The first formal court hearing was on July 14, 2023. Later on, 24th November 2023, the Busan District Court delivered its verdict: life imprisonment on charges of murder, cops' discretion, and abandonment. Prosecutors had aggressively sought the death penalty, arguing the crime's premeditation and brutality warranted South Korea's ultimate punishment. However, judges ruled the death penalty should remain reserved for only the most exceptional cases, noting the country's de facto moratorium on execution since 1997. Jung received an additional order, a 30-year electronic ankle monitoring bracelet requirement in the unlikely event of any future release or parole. Appeals followed quickly. The Busan High Court upheld the life sentence in late March 2024. The final chapter on June 13, 2024, the Supreme Court of South Korea rejected both sides' remaining appeals and finalized the life imprisonment, emphasizing the crime's extreme brutality, high risk of recidivism, random victim selection, and lack of genuine remorse. As of today, Jan 3, 2026, Jung Yoo-jung remains incarcerated in South Korean prison. There have been no public reports of incident, health issues, parole consideration, or any charges to her status since the Supreme Court ruling near 2 years ago. The ripple effects of this case extended far beyond the courtroom and one devastated family. The victims' loved ones suffered an unimaginable, senseless loss. A vibrant young woman taken randomly while simply trying to earn a living from home. In June 2023, Jung offered a brief public apology, stating she was really sorry for the victim's family. Her grandfather also expressed profound remorse to media, blaming himself for failing to raise her properly. Police provided the bereaved family with psychological counseling and financial support. On a broader scale, the case triggered widespread societal fear in South Korea, particularly among young women using freelance apps or living alone. Trust in online tutoring platforms plummeted, with many teachers adding stricter verification policies or moving lessons to public locations. Nationwide debates erupted over random strangers violation in an increasingly digital society. The true crime genre itself came under intense scrutiny. While Jung blamed her obsession, experts like Scrivener and Schmid stressed repeatedly media consumption alone does not create killers. Millions engage safely. Dangerous outcomes require predisposing factors like untreated psychopathy and isolation. Still, the case fueled calls for better mental health resources, for reclusive youth and greater awareness of early warning signs. Finally, it reignited discussion about South Korea's retained but unused death penalty and the balance between punishment, rehabilitation, and public safety. This story serves as a haunting reminder of how fragile the barrier can be between thought and action when isolation, unresolved pain, and psychological vulnerability collide. True crime may illuminate humanity's darkest impulses for most of us, helping us understand evil from a safe distance. But in rare, tragic instances like this, it becomes a mirror reflecting shadows already lurking within. Always remember, the darkest crimes often hide in the quietest corners of the mind. Stay curious, but stay safe. Signing off until the next video falls.